This is Mike, and welcome back to 5 Minutes of Fantasy Sports. So, we're continuing talking about basketball, and we talked a little bit about the categories and how to look at the league settings in a head to head league. Today, I want to talk about actual draft strategy. So, I touched on this a little bit last episode, but today, I want to talk about how to kind of win the category. So, you want to focus on what kind of team you want to build. So, I'm going to click on the Players tab here. And for me, when I do my research, I kind of want to look at all the players that are available. So you want to change your tabs to all players, and then since this was last season, you can look at projections for this season, but I also like to consider last season's totals. So that would be 20, 19, 20, and I just use the total stats. So looking at that, in 2020, the best player was, so it's going to show what team these players wound up on. The best player was James Harden. No, that's not right. So preseason rankings, Jokic was one. I think this is showing for this season. I don't think this is right. But anyway, what I did is I looked at players that had a great, basically dominated certain categories. So I wanted to focus on guards, and I wanted to find guards who had a really high free throw percentage. Problem when you click this is it shows players who don't shoot very many as 1,000. So I wanted to find players with great percentages and also shot a lot of free throws. So like for example, Devin Booker shot 500 free throws. He had a 919 percentage, so he was really good at making his free throws. Bogdanovic, a player I actually wound up with, he's also really good at his free throws. I think I just clicked on percentage here. So usually someone who has a lot of attempts, if it's not someone who shoots poorly, like James Harden here had the most attempts last year. This year he's having a little bit of a struggle with getting free throws, but he shot pretty well, 865. Scrolling down here, Dinwiddie shot 778. He shot 446 free throws last year. And Julius Randle also shot a lot. So anyway, my strategy was guards that had a high field goal percentage, and also guards, I guess I could recategorize this for guards here, that might help. Guards that had a high field goal percentage, high free throw percentage, made a lot of threes, and then also tried to get some steals and some assists as well as points. So there's the term punting a category, where basically you realize your team's probably not going to be good at this category, so you just ignore it and you make up for it with the other categories. So for me, the category I punted was turnovers. Usually guard heavy teams are going to be that way. So last year James Harden had the most 3-pointers. I feel like this isn't showing my player. Where's Steph Curry? Didn't he have a lot of threes last year? Unless 2021 was the year before. Sorry, this isn't going as well as I thought. So looking at my team for this year, you know what, let's actually just talk draft strategy. We don't need to look at my team yet. So for our draft, I decided to go big on Steph Curry and James Harden. Those were the two I specifically targeted, and I really wanted to make sure I got. So you can see the first player drafted was Kyrie Irving. Because this owner wasn't there at the draft, we kind of knew that he would bid up Kyrie Irving on his auto draft. So we nominated Kyrie Irving for $1. The next bid was for $42. And needless to say, this guy Supersonics, his team is not very good this year because he wasted a lot of money on these auto draft players. But Luka Doncic went for 70 of 200. Westbrook went for 37, which I thought was high. That's also the same guy, so he wound up with Irving and Westbrook. He's already dropped Irving, and I don't think he has a lot. But I got Steph Curry for $69. And you know, the price was a lot, but I think it's, you know, he's on par with Luka Doncic for sure. And I also got James Harden for 62. So Kevin Durant went for 62, Giannis went for 69. So you can see the price range for the elite players was very high. But I wound up with, at the end of the day, 2 elite players who can go off at any time and do really well. So I was pleased with that, but I spent a lot of my money, my draft money, on these 2 players, and because of that, I wasn't able to get like a lot of great players. I just got superstars. I don't have a lot of stars. I did wind up getting one other player who's really good, and that was Julius Randle. He went for 30, which I thought was a pretty good deal because he had a great year last year, and he's kind of picking up right where he left off. So you can see other people have a strategy not to pay a lot, like this guy Manjam. If we look at him, he paid 47 for Paul George. He's a Clippers fan, so he was willing to go high. That was his highest bid, I believe. And then looking down further, he paid 16, he paid 37, he paid 31. So he was willing to go in the 30s for a player, and he has a more well-rounded team, I would say. Whereas my team, there's 3 elite guys, and then there's kind of a bunch of, not scrubs, but like just, average league players. So looking at my actual team here that I drafted, Steph Curry, James Harden, Julius Randle, Nurkic. The rest of them were kind of not that expensive. So I got Robert Williams. I paid $9 for him. That was a pretty good deal. Kawhi Leonard I drafted. He's out for the rest of the year, so I've already dropped him. Bojan I paid $3 for. Nicole Alexander Walker, Kendrick Nunn, Derrick Rose, Spencer Dinwiddie, Claxton, and American. So I traded American and Walker for where's that guy's team? I traded him for Kemba Walker and not Seth Curry. Who did he draft that he's already dropped? Oh, he traded for him. So Seth Curry and let me start over. For Kemba Walker and Ben Simmons. He's the guy that's out right now. So anyway, my team's changed a little bit already, 4 weeks in. These players at the end of the draft, sometimes you hit on them, sometimes you don't. Like I've already dropped Claxton. I've already dropped Kendrick Nunn. He hasn't played yet in the season. But really 1 through 8 or so, the players you paid the most for, obviously you want to keep. The players at the end of the draft you can kind of get rid of. So kind of comparing my team to the team next to me, Manjam, you can see that he used most of his money in rounds 1 through 7. I used most of my money in rounds 1 through 3. So if you're going to use that strategy, just be aware, if James Harden gets injured or Steph Curry gets injured, my season is probably in trouble. Whereas the more balanced approach, if Zach LaVine goes down, it's not the end of the world because he has other scorers and other players that can kind of pick it up for him. So those are the 2 strategies that I think most people use. You can see here Damian Lillard, LeBron James, Jaren Jackson, Chris Middleton. So they got 4 players with most of their money. This team got 5. Where's the guy that usually spreads it out pretty evenly? This team kind of did that as well. 31 was the most he paid, but he got a lot of good players for a rounded out team. So anyway, that's 2 different strategies I think people use in drafts. Some people don't like to pay more than a certain amount. This guy Andrew only paid 43 for Donovan Mitchell, and everyone else was under, and he wound up getting a lot of good players. So like Porzingis, he drafted number 8. If he stays healthy, that's going to be a great deal on him. So keep that in mind when you do your auction draft. Going a little bit over on this one, but hopefully there's some useful content in there for you. Draft strategies, I would say either go big on a few players or spread out the wealth on some really good players too.